Well, the long wait is upon us now, talking about the resumption at the National Assembly. Recall what transpired before that particular break, which was called by the Senate President David Mark to bring about calm in the National Assembly. Joining us from our Abuja studios now live is Malaki Ugwumadu. He's a lawyer, and he tries to analyze and see what this would mean for us as a people and as a nation. Well, good morning and thanks for joining us. We're talking about developments in the National Assembly as they resume today. What do you think will be the reading of members in that house, knowing for that loads and loads of Nigerians have been commenting on what transpired on the last day?
Go into that. Please permit me the indulgence to thank Channels for having me in the Abuja studio, and as well as congratulating you for deepening and expanding the frontiers of discourse in this country through your medium. I think that largely the Nigerian people have become considerably disenchanted with the level of governance that ensues from all the arms of government in this country: the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. But by far more disturbing is the fact that the respective legislative houses of assembly across the country, as well as the National Assembly, has this affinity, if you like, with the Nigerian people through representation. And that underscores the essence of democracy in civilized communities. Now, over time, and when I say over time, I mean over years, Nigerians have had a situation in which we are treated more to politics other than governance. And I listened to my previous predecessors in the Lagos axis, both my good friends, Mr. David Anele and Professor Abiola. Anele talks about a government of exclusion, a government that is not imbued with inclusiveness. Professor Abiola echoed the same thing when he said, we live outside the government. And I can assure you that this resonates with virtually every Nigerian who is now the victim of this absence of governance as against politics. Now, let me put it this way. The House of Representatives, which is one of the chambers of the National Assembly, reserves the right as a practice to determine when it resumes. And that is to happen today. But before today, there was the need, following a letter by way of request from the presidency, for the extension of the state of emergency in the troubled states of the northeast region of this country. Whereas the purpose of that was explicitly specified, the exercise was truncated and ambushed, again by politics and not governance. So, where we are today is that beyond the fact that in the northeastern part of the country today, the perpetration of the state of emergency continues in illegality, the business of governance, which ought to benefit from the resumption of the National Assembly, I mean the House of Representatives today, is also in doubt. The reason being that between the last recall of the House and today, that arm of government has been thoroughly overheated. And we expect that the supervening circumstances that, attended that transgression of that moment particularly the resentment of the Nigerian people, should be heavy enough to weigh on the minds of the legislators, but more on the part of the executive, particularly through the police organization, to moderate their excesses. At the end of the day, what we want as Nigerians is that peaceful atmosphere where we will continue to live at each out of our lives, and we continue to give concrete expressions to our being as human beings, without necessarily being ambushed by the politics of our politicians. I say this because the statements of my colleagues is not lost on me. We live outside government, and that is not far-fetched. I have a borehole in my premises in Lagos. We generate our own electricity. We have security gatemen. We have street security operatives. We send our kids to private schools. We don't attend their hospitals. So that statement is not far-fetched. So as they resume today, needless to say that it will be a house of commotion, no doubt. But I think that the whole thing should be moderated because...
Allow me come in very quickly. We're just coming in now has it that, well, that gavel that was hit, that the resumption will be today, has, well, been moved now to 15th of December. Well, I just got information from my producers. Well, the House of Representatives will not resume today again. Well, it's now on the 15th. But again, stay with your argument and your train of thought, which is very germane here, talking about, well, what the people truly want. David Anyele painted a picture that, well, got me really worried. A situation whereby these are Nigerians, and he said, well, there are over 2 million that will be disenfranchised in the country based on their status, that is, they are disabled. And of course, Professor Awosike-Fapetu also did say, well, we must be hopeful, as she is, if only we are serious to move on and see this as a blessing in disguise. Going through that particular argument, how can we get into a system whereby you will not be talking about what you provide for yourself, but will be holding people to account now that we're moving into an election year, so that promises are meant to be kept, not broken?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think it goes to the soul of what we are expected to be doing as citizens of this society. But let me put it this way. No matter how dysfunctional the civil society in Nigeria has become in recent years, you will find that that society emerged, and forcefully too, when it became very clear that government, there is deficit of governance in this country, and that the respective government policies that ought to integrate the interests of the people were not there. And I speak as a very formidable practitioner in that society. What we have done over time is to look at the critical role of the organs of government, the arms of government, the legislature, for instance, and find that for as long as they are more preoccupied with the issues of oversighting that has to do with a corresponding pecuniary interest, for as long as they subdue and subjugate the core responsibility of legislature in every democracy, which is to moderate the excesses of the executive. For that long, the Nigerian people who are supposed to be the beneficiary of governance will be excluded. And therefore, we had to activate the civil society. So many civil society organizations, NGOs, had to be created to fill in the gaps. And you will find that most of the poor people legislations largely came from the agitation and campaign of the civil society. The Freedom of Information Bill is one out there, notwithstanding the length of time that it took. Now, these initiatives became very, very important because we have seen over the time that the activities of these legislators have not effectively keyed into the desire and the requirement of entitlement of the people. For instance, I give you 2 or 3 instances. When the people of Nigeria cried out that over $16 billion was spent on electricity during General Obasanjo's tenure, and we ended up in endless darkness, a committee was constituted again in the same House of Representatives, headed by Mr. Elumelu, Mr. Elumelu. Now, that committee ended up being indicted so that the hunter became the hunted. And at the end of the day, we had no report to rescue us from that wastage. The young man I just mentioned is all over in my own state, Delta State, campaigning to become the governor of Delta State. Again, we moved on. I was on the street with hundreds of comrades of mine, including late Bamidele Aturu and so on, where we engaged the Nigerian state regarding the obnoxious subsidy policy. And we made the argument that what was indeed subsidized in this country are not petroleum products, but corruption and ineptitude. And when we finished, and given the articulation of those positions and how firmly we pushed them, it became expedient, also to save their face, that a committee headed by Lawan Farouk should be constituted. At the end of the day, we all knew what happened, for which reason the young man is standing trial today, allegedly for collecting bribes and stocking them in the patterns of his cap. Now, what we should be doing is never to allow these people to mortgage our future. The irony about freedom is that freedom is never given free. It will be the responsibility, the historical responsibility of the Nigerian people to rise up to the occasion and begin to shake off this mentality and attitude of docility, and then grab the opportunity, as it were, intervene in the political processes, and then drive it. As I speak with you today, it is still very much in doubt. I was in a program with Professor Joga just about 2 days ago, before my matter yesterday, and we had occasion to ask questions regarding the possibility of conducting election in every part of the country come 2015.
Mr. Ugwumadu, just before you go on, if you can hear me, if I may come in here, can you hear me? Yeah, so I was just wondering, though, are you a little disappointed? Because everyone had thought that the House was going to resume today, December the 3rd. They had shifted theirs. Well, as you rightly said, they have the right to decide when they want to resume. But are you disappointed that they've shifted it from December the 3rd to the 15th of this month?
Marco, that's a very valid question. Even if I said earlier that the House, as well as the Senate, the National Assembly, reserves the prerogative to determine the proceedings and the timing of their actions, you would find that constitutionally too, they are bound to ensure that attendance also reaches a benchmark. Well, at the last quarter of the year, I'm sure they've met that. But the point I'm making is that even if they have the discretion to fix and choose when to resume sittings, the real issue is the question of governance in this country. And if we are going to take a cue from the reason why it was to reconvene earlier than today, you will find that it has to do with a question of national importance and security. Namely, that a significant chunk of this country is seriously under siege, and that there was the need to regularize the legality of the state of emergency in those states. The way we saw play out is more of politics than governance.
I think,
and as I speak with you,
go ahead.
Mr. Suleiman, I can hear you want to make an intervention.
No, go ahead very quickly, because we're almost out of time.
Well, perhaps my parting word would be that we as Nigerians and they as governors owe us a duty to deliver governance and then limit the overbearing influence of politics. This time around, very clearly disturbing kind of politics. We have to really have the dividends of democracy. We have to be assured that the processes that will guarantee a Republican Nigerian, which is the capacity to periodically choose leadership, must be certain. We must also be given the assurance that there is security. I mean, if the government house in Damaturu, as I understand it, has come under serious attack, it stands to reason that there is no place safe over there. And as I understand it, this is not the first time that that government house has come under attack. I think, we are hopeful, although hoping against hopes, that given the variables that are at play today, it could be challenging, but we'll get there.
Well, Malaki Ugwumadu, would like to thank you so very much for spending time with us from our Abuja studios. Well, we hope that your assessment of the legislature will be taken into account, and we hope to see a better legislative year, maybe that's after the elections. Well, once again, many thanks. He's a lawyer. He spoke to us from our Abuja studios there. And, well, a quick one here, from Omasambuan, trying to, talk about John in a discussion with David, that Delta State has a law which necessitates mandatory employment of disabled graduates, and that they have about 400 employed so far. Well, this is where we say thank you so very much for being such nice company on the program today. The House will resume, that is the National Assembly House of Representatives will resume on the 16th, I understand, 1/6, on the 16th of December. Well, I'm Sulaiman Alede. Thanks for watching.
Well, we'll wonder how many days that is before Christmas, but I guess the questions will keep coming when we hold them to account. That will be all. Thank you. I'm Awosike-Fapetu.
And I'm Nell Tugwood. Thank you for watching.
We'll see you again.